This is a Jace Media Service podcast. We are a negative profit company. This podcast features David Hatfield of the famous Hatfield and McCoys. David tells about his famous relative, Sid Hatfield, who is a folk legend and United Mine Workers of America hero. It also features an introduction by Kim Patterson, innkeeper of the historic Matewan House Bed and Breakfast, which David owns.
We're in Matewan, West Virginia. Hi, my name is Kim Patterson. I'm the innkeeper here at the historic Matewan House Bed and Breakfast. I fix your breakfast, I check you in, check you out, take care of whatever needs you have while you're here. We want to make sure that everybody has a great stay. I grew up here. I love it. I have moved away for a while, but I came back. This is home. I love the mountains here. My grandparents were born and raised here. My parents were born and raised here. I graduated from school here. I love it. I love our small town. We're a close-knit community. When something happens, everybody pulls together to take care of everybody. I love it. It's a great place to live. Come visit. We're in Matewan, West Virginia. We are in the historic Matewan House Bed and Breakfast.
Hillbilly. Let's try that one first. What's a hillbilly? It means different things to different people. A lot of people confuse it with not the redneck of the mine boys era, but the modern day version of redneck. I think hillbillies are unique people. It's the same as any other term for city slicker or so forth and so on. Different places around the country, around the world that have a unique name of some kind, just depicting who they are or where they're from, or a way of identifying, I guess. Hillbillies are independent people. They're good people. They treat you how they want to be treated, and I just think they're fair and honest, but yet. Again, the loyalty thing comes in to play, and your word. Well, the evils here came here from New York City in the form of the coal company owners and what have you that took advantage of poor mountain folk that were self-sustaining before they came here and ended up becoming their slaves, basically. They really were taking advantage of it, I think, and it's unfortunate that it happened that way. And we're not playing the victim card. You look back at history, and that's the way it played out. The thing about it is, it's kind of hard for people too. Here all of a sudden, some of them are actually living on the same land that they were living on before, that they actually owned at one time. Now they don't own it anymore. And people are dictating terms to them. They don't even, I talk about the script that we have in our little store up there. It's a piece of history that people can carry around with them, but it's something we need to carry around with so we don't forget. That poor miner that took that script to that coal company and traded it for something to eat or something to work with or whatever, the only way that he could break that bond, because he never did get his hands on U.S. currency to even get, a train ticket to get out of town. And back then, that was the only way in and out of here to civilization. You had to lay down everything that you could carry that you might have owned outright, if you owned anything that wasn't the coal companies or, the company store, and just walk out with nothing. And that took a lot to be able to do that. A lot of people couldn't break that bondage, and so the economic slavery that was that caused is why in later years you had a lot of the violence and things. You was talking about the evil. It wasn't because people here were violent, but you back somebody or a human or even an animal into a corner, and they have no other recourse, then that's sometimes what happens. Well, basically, Sid Hatfield and my great-grandmother were brother and sister, and so that's how I'm kin to Sid. My great-grandmother was a Hatfield, my great-grandfather was a Hatfield. Their dads were brothers, they were first cousins, and that wasn't uncommon in this area at that time, so that's just one of the little side stories.
Do you know when exactly he became the chief of police here in town?
Not exactly, but I know it was prior to, of course, the Matewan Massacre or Battle of Matewan, whichever one you want to call it, on May 19th, 1920. Sid, from what I can gather, some of the more well-to-do people in town didn't really care for Sid being the chief of police. But at that time, Matewan was like a Wild West boomtown, during the gold rush or something. Thousands of people within a mile of Matewan. A lot of things going on. Rough housing on the weekends and things like that, and so forth and so on. And you had to have somebody here to keep the peace. And it was said that Sid was known to be a little bit rough around the edges, and they didn't approve of that. But other than that, it was Mayor Testerman kind of seen it that he was the guy for the job. Let's just put it that way. Well, I know the popular version, and then of course the coal company's version is totally different. And so I guess that's the reason that Sid and the other 20-some defendants in the trial after the Matewan Massacre, that's the reason they were acquitted or found not guilty, is because the total diverse way that they explained it. The coal company said Sid snuck up behind one of the detectives and shot him without him even knowing he was armed and all this stuff. And then, of course, the other version of it where it was basically like the old Wild West, you had a standoff, shot rang out, the mayor drops to the ground, then all, what broke loose. And basically that's the version that I know and the version I've heard more of. And so that's kind of the way I go with it. And but if you just talk to James Baldwin, one of the people that comes here all the time, and some of his descendants his uncles were the Baldwin Phelps detectives. He's going to tell it the other way. And so what we do, we tell it both ways, and then we let you decide. Well, let me tell you something. It's the same thing I tell people with the Hatfield and McCoy feud, right? We do a lot of tours and everything. When you start taking events that happened over 100 years ago, it's almost impossible with 100% assurance to tell anybody what happened. And if you do, you're lying through your teeth. And the only people that know, you probably visited Sid's grave and Ed's grave and the mayor's grave. They're the only ones, if they could come back and talk to us, that can tell us what happened. So, it'll be buried with them until someday maybe we get to meet them on the other side. And we'll find out. The reason the mayor liked him so well, and the reason they were best friends, is his loyalty. And Sid, that was the reason that a lot of people thought that it was odd that Sid married Jessie within just 10 days or so, or within 2 weeks of the time of the mayor's death. You got to look at the perspective on it. Is back then women didn't have a lot of rights like they do now, especially when it comes to taking over property. And the mayor, of course, was had Testerman's jewelry store, and she had a small son to take care of, and her chances of survival on her own here were slim and none. And the mayor and Sid both knew that at any time either one of them or both of them could have been killed because they'd refused bribes by the coal company and so forth and so on. And so, I think that was one of the things that set him apart and probably made him a better candidate to be the chief of police. But it was trust. It was somebody he could trust that he was going to stand up and do what he had to do to protect, Jesse and everything after. And I guess they thought that was the best way was to, for them to be married. Then, of course, she had somebody to protect her, and he wanted to keep his word. And the coal company, they framed it a totally different way and basically said, that Sid killed the mayor. Now, I'm going to put it to you, just like I put it to everybody else. If you're faced off in a gunfight or a potential gunfight, are you going to somehow take time out to fire the first shot at your friend and nobody's going to see you do it right out in the open in front of everybody? Doesn't quite make sense. So I'm just going to leave it right there. And once that first shot rang out, then, it just doesn't sound logical to me. But, I want to believe it that way. But I try to put myself on both sides of it. But I just can't see, if I was there that day, I couldn't see me, if I was in his position, being focused on anything but what's in front of me.
How he was accused of destroying a tipple in Mohawk.
Well, probably wasn't a whole lot of substance to what happened there. I think it was mainly just a scheme or a plot. We could just use those words, a plot, to get Ed and Sid to Welch, West Virginia, in their territory where they had bought the coal company, bought the town basically off, what they failed to be able to do here. And they were going to make sure that they did away with the folk hero and the miner's hero that Sid had become, and show that this is what happens to you when you buck the coal company, and you just don't do that. And that's what they set out to do. Kind of backfired on them a little bit, as you know, with Blair Mountain happening shortly thereafter, the largest, uprising since the Civil War, armed uprising. But that's, in my opinion, that's what that was all about. They knew that he was never going to set foot in that courthouse. There was never going to be a trial. If there ever was a change of venue that they should have done, they should have not even applied for the half court here. When they went in, they should have made a motion said, there's no way we're going to get a fair trial here. No, you're not going to. We need to move this to another city because they weren't going to win in Mingo County. I'm sorry, but being a typical Hatfield, I have no sympathy for him. I just think that, a lot of people ask me why I come back to Matewan. And it's because of Sid's commitment to the people and to the miners and to what he thought was right or wrong. And the shape this town's in economically, and we need to do whatever we can. And so that's the reason I feel compelled to do what I'm able to do. As a working person, I don't have a lot of money, but if I can convince people to come back to Matewan and get Matewan to grow again, then that's why I'm here. And I think I just, but we never were shy of hard work, and we did what we had to do to survive. And that's one of the things that I'm advocating today is that for the first time in over 100 years, that we take control of our own destiny here, diversify our economy, and own our own destiny for a change. Not for a while. That's going to change.
Thank you for listening. Our podcasts are hosted by Buzzsprout and can be found there as well as your favorite media outlet. Just search for JASE Media Service. You can also find our videos on YouTube and Vimeo. My name is James Goltz, and I was assisted by Dale Hawkins, the Redneck Historian. Music with permission by Fesliyan Studios and Apple iMovie.